The stars above the quiet moon colony were cold and silent. No wind moved, no music played. Only the soft hum of energy lines under the ground told that this place was still alive. Vetra sat on the edge of a stone bench, hands folded on her lap. Her silver hair fell softly over her pale blue shoulders. Her violet eyes stared at the garden around her, a garden that no longer bloomed. Dry soil, wilted leaves. A single broken tree. She was alone. Once she had lived in a shining palace on the capital world of Thalrex Prime. She wore robes made from starlight silk. Dancers bowed to her. Scientists praised her genes. The high caste believed she would carry strong children for the future of their race. But then, the test came. Her body, they said, had a flaw, silent, hidden, invisible, but permanent. She could not create life. The council gave her the mark of Veyran, which meant empty branch, a title of shame. Her family name was stripped away, her palace doors closed. Her friends turned away. Now she lived here, on a moon no one cared about, under a fake sky dome and dusty lights. She wasn't a prisoner, but she was forgotten. She did not cry anymore. That part of her had already dried up. Then came the sound. A loud, mechanical beep echoed from the loading dock. She turned her head. A shuttle had landed. Supply drops came. Once every 2 weeks, and sometimes repair workers too. This one was late. Strange. She stood, brushed off her robe, and walked slowly to the landing bay. The doors hissed open. Out stepped a tall figure in a brown uniform, backpack slung over one shoulder. His skin was a warm tan, his hair dark and messy. A human, male. He looked around, blinking at the dusty surroundings. Then he saw her. Oh, hello, he called, waving. She blinked, surprised. Most new arrivals bowed or looked away. Not him. I'm Elias Grant, he said, walking forward with a bright smile. Terraforming technician, here to fix your failing biodome. Vetra tilted her head. You are human, Elias chuckled. Guilty as charged, she frowned slightly. You are not the usual worker. Yeah, they said the last guy quit. Something about the quiet being too much. I don't mind quiet. Vetra studied him. His tone was casual, open. He did not stare at her with pity, fear, or disgust. That alone was unusual. I am Vetra, she said quietly. I care for the grounds. You may set your things inside. Thanks. He followed her into the habitat dome. Inside, the lights flickered. The temperature was uneven. Plants were dry and tired-looking. A row of damaged fans clicked softly in the air ducts. Elias walked around, checking systems with his small scanner. Yeah, you've got problems all right, he muttered. But nothing I can't fix. Vetra stood to the side, unsure what to say. Humans were strange, talkative, emotional, but Elias seemed calm. He glanced at her. You don't talk much, huh? I speak when it is needed, he nodded. Fair enough. Then he reached into his pack and pulled out a metal cup. Steam rose from it. You want some coffee? He asked. She blinked. Coffee? Earth drink. Bitter but keeps you awake. She hesitated, then stepped forward. He handed her the cup. She sipped it slowly, and her eyebrows lifted. It was strange, dark, strong, and warm. I do not hate it. Elias grinned. Good enough for me. They sat in silence after that. Vetra watched him work. He whistled softly while fixing the water pipes. He told her stories about Earth, about rainy cities, flying cars, and cats that refused to listen to anyone. She listened but said little. Still, something small stirred in her chest. That night, she returned to her quarters, a small room with silver walls and one bed. She sat on the edge and stared at her reflection in the glass panel. Why does he not look at me with shame? She wondered. The next day, Elias began work on the central greenhouse. Vetra followed him there. He looked up as she entered. You interested in helping? She paused. No one had asked her that in a long time. She nodded. Together, they dug into the soil, pulled out old roots, and added earth-rich fertilizer. Elias taught her to use the human tools. Vetra, in return, showed him how Thalran plants responded to soft humming sounds. The greenhouse slowly began to breathe again. Every day they worked, every night they talked, He gave her space when she needed silence. She shared memories and returned childhood nights under crystal trees, the joy of learning, the pain of losing her title. Elias never judged. He only listened. One evening, as the sky dome dimmed to false twilight, Elias brought out 2 plates of food. One was standard rations. The other was a small dish with something yellow and sweet-smelling. "What is this?" Vetra asked. "Lemon cake," he said. "Earth dessert. I traded 3 solar batteries to get the ingredients." "Why?" He smiled. "Because I wanted to see you smile." She stared at him. "I am not valuable," she said softly. "I cannot create heirs. My own people called me a waste." Elias leaned forward. His eyes were serious now. "You're not a waste," he said. "You're kind, you're smart, you make dry plants grow. You made me feel welcome here, even though this place is so empty." Vetra looked down. No one had said such words to her before. Not her parents, not the caste leaders, not even herself. "You see me," she whispered. He nodded. "Of course I do." Outside, a wind machine began to spin for the first time in weeks, and the leaves of the greenhouse trees rustled softly. The colony lights were dim that night. Thin clouds of space dust floated over the dome, giving the stars a soft glow. The moon was quiet, but inside the small medbay, Elias worked quietly with tools in his hands and questions in his mind. He had seen the strange alien woman 3 times now. She always walked alone, never spoke, and never looked anyone in the eyes. But tonight was different. She sat on a bench near the greenhouse, her head low, her shoulders shaking just slightly. Elias placed his tools down. His work could wait. He stepped outside the medbay, walking slowly toward her. She didn't move. He sat down on the edge of the bench, not too close. "You okay?" he asked softly. The alien woman didn't answer. "I've seen you around." "You always keep to yourself," he continued. Still, no reply. He looked at her hands. They were wrapped in thin gloves, but he could see the faint blue glow through them. "Thauron, no doubt. I'm Elias," he said. "Mechanic. Sort of a doctor, too. You?" A pause. Then she finally spoke in a quiet voice. "Vetra," he smiled. "Nice to meet you, Vetra." She turned her face away. "You don't have to be kind. I know what I am." "What are you?" She looked at him now. Her golden eyes were filled with sadness. "Vauron." Elias blinked. He remembered that term from some report. It was a Thauron word. It meant unfit, or worse, rejected. "I see," he said carefully. "And who decided that?" "My people." "Well," Elias said, leaning back, "I'm not your people. I decide for myself." She looked confused. "You are not afraid?" "Disgusted?" He laughed. "No, why would I be?" She touched her chest lightly. "My body was tested. They said it cannot carry life, so I was sent away. No family would take me." "I am nothing," Elias shook his head. "That's not nothing. That's just science. People are more than just what their body can or can't do." She stared at him for a long moment. "Why do you speak like that? Why do you not look away?" He met her eyes. "Because you're still here, you're still alive, and that means you matter." From that night, things began to change. Vetra still kept to herself, but now she allowed Elias to sit beside her sometimes. They would talk about small things. The weather inside the dome, the sound of the wind machines, the taste of earth-grown tomatoes. She was slow to trust, but Elias was patient. He never rushed her. One day, as they walked near the outer tunnels, Elias asked, "You ever miss your home?" Vetra paused. "Sometimes, but mostly I miss what I thought it was." He nodded. "Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. I wanted to be useful. I studied, I trained, I passed all tests, except one." He looked at her gently. "You were made to feel like a failure for something that's not your fault." "That's cruel." She didn't reply, but her silence was softer now. Not as heavy. Elias invited her to help in the greenhouse. At first, Vetra hesitated. She had never worked with earth plants before, but she learned quickly. Her hands were gentle, and she moved with quiet grace. One afternoon, she asked, "Why do your plants sing?" He smiled. "You can hear that?" She nodded. Their energy hummed softly. "It feels warm. That's life," he said. Even plants want to be close to someone kind. Vetra blushed faintly, her glowing cheeks turning silver blue. She didn't know it, but others in the colony had started noticing her too. Not with fear anymore, but with curiosity, respect. The engineer said she moved like water. The cook said she cleaned without being asked. The teacher said the children liked her calm presence. Even the colony leader sent a message. The alien you work with, she's helping morale. Keep her involved. Vetra saw the message by accident on Elias's screen. You didn't tell them I was Veyran? No, he said. Because to me, you're just Vetra. She looked at him for a long time, her voice quiet. That means something. One evening, Vetra invited Elias to the old scanner room. It was unused, full of dust and broken panels. She pressed a few buttons. A small blue light formed in the center. It showed a projection, a map of the Thauran Empire. That's where I was born, she said, pointing to a bright cluster of stars. A palace made of light, but it never felt like home. She turned the map again. Here is the place I was sent after the rejection. A lonely moon. No one spoke to me. I stayed in silence. Elias leaned closer. That's where you lived before you came here. Yes, she said, but that silence hurt more than any words. He didn't speak right away. Then he said, You don't have to be silent anymore. She looked at him. Even if I can never have a child? Even if I am different? You're still someone, he said. You feel, you care, you work hard. That's more than enough. Vetra's eyes filled with quiet light. For the first time she smiled, not politely, not carefully, but truly. But not everything was peaceful. 2 days later, a long-range scanner picked up a ship. Not from Earth, not from any nearby allies. It was Thauran. The ship was huge, dark, and silent. A message arrived. We request the return of Veyran's subject Vetralin. The colony froze. The leader asked Elias, What's going on? He told them the truth about her past, about what her people called her, about the label Veyran. But then he added something more. She's not a subject, he said. She's a person. She helps. She heals. She gives more to this colony than most humans do. The leader frowned. This could cause political trouble. Elias stood firm. Then let it. Vetra overheard everything. Later she approached Elias. You spoke for me, he nodded. Always will. Her voice was low. But if they come for me, what will you do? He looked her in the eyes. Then I will stand in their way. She placed her glowing hand over his heart. No one has ever stood for me, she said. You don't need them to anymore, he replied. You have me. The Thauran ship didn't land, but it sent another message. Return the subject, or we will retrieve her by force. That night, Elias and Vetra stood at the center of the dome. The people of the colony gathered around. Elias stepped forward. We don't send our own into danger, he said. Vetra is one of us now. The colony watched him, unsure. Then the teacher stepped forward. She helped my students. Then the cook. She grows food faster than we can cook it. Then the medic. She saved a child last week with her knowledge. One by one, people stepped forward. We stand with her, they said. Vetra couldn't speak. Her voice was stuck in her throat. But her heart was full, and when Elias gently took her hand in his, she did not pull away. For the first time she believed it. She was not broken. She was loved. The stars above the moon colony blinked in silence. But the peace was broken. A silver ship, sharp and tall like a dagger, landed near the outer dome. The engines let out a deep hum, and the ground shook as it touched down. Vetra stood at the edge of her small garden, staring at the ship with wide eyes. She knew that design, Thauran Royal Emissary class. Not many dared to travel to this forgotten moon. If such a ship came, it meant only one thing. The Empire had noticed her again. Elias walked out of the repair shed with a spanner in his hand and grease on his shirt. Is that one of your people? Vetra's hands tightened around the edge of her robe. Yes, that is a government ship. You don't look happy about it. I am not. The shuttle door opened. A tall, pale Thauran male stepped out, dressed in gold-trimmed robes. His head was high, his steps smooth. 2 guards followed behind him. Their armor shone under the artificial sky. The male's eyes locked on Vetra. Vetralin, Marked Veyran, he said loud and cold. You were instructed not to make contact with other species beyond formal supply chains. Vetra stood straight, voice calm but sharp. I made no such contact. I have done nothing against law. The human arrived on orders of his own world. Elias stepped beside her, and I'm not leaving. The emissary looked at him like one might look at a stain. You are not part of this matter. Too bad, Elias said. I work here, live here, and she's my friend. That makes it my matter. The emissary looked disgusted. She is not your equal. She is a void, a failed vessel. Your friendship with her is both foolish and distasteful. Vetra flinched, but Elias took a step forward. You don't get to speak about her like that. The two guards raised their weapons slightly, but the emissary waved them down. You care for this outcast? He asked. Truly? Yes, Elias said. She's more decent and noble than anyone I've met. She saved this colony, kept it alive. She deserves respect. The emissary frowned. This bond is unacceptable. You insult our people's laws. Elias crossed his arms. Then maybe your laws need to change. The emissary stared at him in disbelief. No one had ever spoken to a royal in such a way, especially not a human. I will report this, the emissary said, and I will return. With that, he turned and marched back into the ship. The ship left that same evening, but the silence it left behind was heavy. Vetra sat in the greenhouse, her fingers trembling. She stared at the fresh green leaves, unable to enjoy their beauty. I knew they would come someday, she said softly. But not like this, not with threats. Elias brought her a cup of warm broth. They can't force you to go, can they? They can't drag me away, not yet, she said. But they can use their power to crush this place. They can. Stop supplies? They can declare the colony unsafe. Elias sighed. They don't like someone standing up to them. No one ever does, Vetra said. In my world, people obey the high castes. Always, even if the rules are cruel. Elias sat beside her. But what if we don't obey? What if we push back? Vetra looked at him. You don't understand. They don't just take people's titles, they erase them. They make others forget you even existed. My own sister hasn't sent a message in 3 years. He didn't say anything at first, then slowly he reached for her hand. I won't forget you, he said. She looked at their hands together. Her fingers were slender and smooth, glowing faintly under the soft light. His were rough, calloused from work. Yet they fit together like they belonged. Her voice shook. They will come back. Let them, Elias said. They'll learn Earth doesn't scare easy. The next week, the colony's central AI received a message from the Thalran Council. This is a formal order. Vetraland is to be returned to Thalrex Prime for re-evaluation and correction. Failure to comply will result in sanctions against the colony and the planet Earth. The message was cold, but clear. Vetra had to leave, or the place she had grown to love would suffer. Vetra read the message in silence. Then she stood up and walked to her garden. Elias followed her, holding the printed copy in his hands. What are you going to do? He asked. She looked up at the fake sky above them. I do not know. He placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to go. We'll fight this. She turned to him. How? You are one man. I am one broken woman. They are an empire. Elias gave a slow smile. You're not broken, and I'm not alone. That night, Elias sent out a broadcast from the colony's tower. He connected to Earth's media net, then to galactic public networks. His message was simple. He stood in front of the camera with Vetra by his side. This is Elias Grant of Colony 87 Beta. I am speaking not just as a worker, but as a man who has seen injustice. He explained Vetra's story, how she had been cast out for a reason. Beyond her control, how she worked to save the colony. How the Empire wanted to punish her simply for being shown kindness. This woman is not a danger. She is not a traitor. She is a gardener. A healer and my friend. He paused. No empire has the right to tell us who is worthy of love or who deserves silence. The message spread quickly. Within days, humans from Earth began to reply. Messages of support came in. We see you, Vetra. You are not alone. Earth stands with you. Some aliens replied too. Species that had suffered under caste systems, under silence, under cold laws. The quiet moon was no longer forgotten. The Thauron responded fast. Another ship appeared larger. Armed and louder, this time. The ambassador did not come to talk. The ship hovered above the colony. Weapons online, a voice came through the sky speakers. This is the final order, returned Vetralin. This is your last warning. Inside the dome, Vetra stood still. Her heart beat hard. The air felt heavy. She looked at Elias. They will destroy all of this. Only if we let them. He took her hand again. We're not going to run. Outside, the dome lights flickered as power systems tried to resist the pressure. The shields held for now. Inside the greenhouse, the plants trembled under the wind. But Vetra did not. She stepped forward. She faced the sky. She raised her voice. I am not a danger. I am not a curse. I am not broken. She lifted her hand, fingers glowing faintly with her race's natural energy. I will not bow again. The warship above the dome hovered like a shadow. Its engines hummed with quiet power, and its weapons blinked with warning lights. The Thauron voice echoed again across the colony's communication towers. This is your last chance. Send out. The Veyran. Failure to comply will be considered rebellion. Inside the dome, Vetra and Elias stood side by side. Vetra's hand trembled, but she didn't lower it. Her glowing fingers pointed toward the sky not as a threat, but as a message. She refused to hide. Elias pressed a button on the communication panel. His voice, clear and strong, filled the air. This is Elias Grant, human citizen and representative of Earth Colony 87 Beta. We will not give up Vetra. She has done no wrong. You want to call this rebellion? Fine, then we rebel. Silence followed. Then the Thauron warship shifted position. Its wings opened. The power buildup inside the weapon core could be felt even from the ground. It wasn't just a threat now. They were preparing to fire. Vetra turned to Elias. You must go. He blinked. What? They are after me, not you. If I go to them, they might spare this colony. Elias stepped closer. No, you don't get it. You're not just someone I protect. You're someone I care about. She looked down, ashamed. But I was marked ... Ron. My body is not useful to anyone. Elias touched her chin gently and lifted her face. You're more than a body. You're brave. You're kind. You make me want to be better. That means something. That means everything. She stared into his eyes. In all her years, no one had looked at her like that, not even when she was considered perfect. Her eyes filled with quiet tears, but she didn't let them fall. They didn't have time to cry. Suddenly, the colony's AI activated. A message flashed across all screens. Incoming broadcast from Earth Central Command. The image of a human ambassador appeared. Gray-haired and serious. She spoke calmly but firmly. To the Thauron Empire, any act of violence against our citizen or colony will be treated as an act of war. We do not stand by while our people or allies are threatened. We offer peace, but we will not kneel. The Thauron warship paused. More human ships appeared on the radar. Smaller than the Thauron one, but fast, sharp, and brave. They weren't alone anymore. Elias and Vetra stood near the dome's edge. Watching the sky, the humans came, Vetra whispered. Even for me, Elias smiled. Of course. Earth doesn't forget those it loves. A soft beep came from the repair console. The biodome lights, once flickering, became steady. The greenhouses glowed again. The air felt cleaner. Elias had finished his repairs just in time, but something else appeared on the colony. Scanner, a civilian ship, unmarked, flying slowly. Vetra looked at the signal. That's not military. Elias frowned. You think it's a trap? No, she said, stepping closer. I know that code. The ship landed gently near the old landing pads. It opened with a soft hiss. A single figure walked out, a woman dressed in a white robe with a long braid down her back. She looked like Vetra. Vetra gasped. It's my sister. Her name was Solari, a Thauron scientist. Once, she had been Vetra's closest friend. But after Vetra was marked, Solari went silent. Now she stood in front of her, unsure and pale. I wasn't sure if you'd let me speak, Solari said softly. Vetra kept her distance. Why are you here? Solari lowered her head. Because I was wrong. I let the council silence me. I believed their tests. But I saw your broadcast, and then I saw how this human stood by you. She glanced at Elias, who nodded politely, but did not interrupt. Solari continued. I checked the old medical files. I think they lied. Vetra's heart skipped. Lied? You were never broken, Solari said. You were never Veyran. Someone changed your file. Why? Because you were popular. Too much attention. Some high families feared you would become more powerful than them. Elias clenched his fists. So they destroyed her name to keep their place? Solari nodded. Yes, and I let them. I was afraid. Vetra stepped forward. Why tell me? Now? Because Earth did something we never dared. They refused to bow, and you, Vetra, you never gave up. That gave me courage. For the first time in years, the two sisters embraced. Later that night, the colony lights dimmed to soft moonlight. Inside the greenhouse, the plants swayed gently in the recycled breeze. Elias and Vetra sat beside the glowing fruit trees. Do? You think they'll fix the records? Elias asked. I don't know, Vetra replied. But now the truth is out. Solari's data helps, he said. And with Earth supporting you, they'll have to think twice. Vetra looked at the stars through the glass above them. I never thought I'd have a second chance, she whispered. Not as a royal, not even as a citizen. But here, with you, I feel like maybe I don't need a title to be whole. Elias leaned back on the bench. Titles don't make people. Hearts do, Vetra looked at him. You speak. Like a poet. Nah, he chuckled, just a man in love. She turned her head quickly. In love? He smiled. Yeah, that's what this is. I know it might be strange, but I feel it. Do you? Vetra hesitated, her heart raced. She had been taught to fear closeness, to think her body was a shame. But with him, none of that mattered. She nodded slowly. Yes, I feel it too. The next morning, the Thalran warship pulled away. A new message was received. The matter of Vetralen is under reinvestigation. Until further notice, all actions are suspended. No violence will be taken. Elias read the message and sighed. That's a long way of saying we lost, Vetra laughed, a soft, sweet sound. Or at least, we're afraid to keep pushing. For the first time in years, she smiled without sadness. The garden bloomed again. The dome felt brighter. The cold moon colony no longer felt like a prison, but a home, and beside her, the human who loved her like a queen sat with quiet pride. The dome sky was brighter than usual. It wasn't just the repaired lights. There was something else, something in the air. The people in Colony 87 Beta walked with lighter steps. Workers smiled. Children played again. Even the greenhouse flowers bloomed wider, their colors stronger, as if they too felt the change. Vetra stood beside a long planting bed, carefully placing new seeds in the soil. Her hands moved slowly, but steadily. She paused only when Elias came up behind her. Guess what? He said. She turned and tilted her head. More broken machines? He chuckled. No, for once everything's working, but we got a message. From Earth Central Command. Her heart skipped. Bad news? He smiled. No, very good news. The colony gathered in the central hall. Most of the 120 colonists came, even those who normally stayed quiet or kept to themselves. Vetra stood near the front beside Elias and her sister Solari, who had decided to stay. The giant screen turned on. An official from Earth Central appeared. She had gray hair and strong eyes. People of Colony 87 Beta, she said. We speak today not as Earth officials, but as fellow beings who believe in fairness. The case of Vetralen has moved the hearts of many. From this day forward, we declare her a friend of Earth. Vetra's eyes widened. The Council of Thalran has agreed to drop all charges. They will correct the records. Vetralen is no longer labeled Veyran. She is free to choose her own future. The room burst into cheers. Humans clapped, cheered, and even some cried. Vetra looked around in awe. The faces were full of joy for her. People who were not her species. People who had no reason to care had chosen to stand with her. Solari touched her arm. You are no longer alone. Vetra turned to Elias. Did you know this would happen? Elias shrugged. I hoped you deserve more than just survival. She whispered, I don't want to just survive anymore. A few weeks passed. The colony felt safer. Supplies came regularly now. More workers requested transfers to the moon base, curious about the woman who had once been rejected and now stood at the center of it all. But something strange also began to happen. Other aliens, those from different species, different systems, began sending messages. Many were from people who had also been cast out by their own worlds. Some were imperfect. Others had strange appearances or disabilities. But they all said the same thing, we saw you. You gave us hope? Vetra read each message carefully. Her heart grew heavier with each one. There are so many, she whispered one night. Too many who were forgotten. Elias nodded. But now they know they're not worthless. She looked up. Maybe we can do more, he raised an eyebrow. Like what? A home, not just for humans, not just for Thauron. For anyone who was left behind. They began the project slowly. At first, it was just one small dome the extra biome used for storage. They cleared it out, they cleaned the soil. They added lights and set up new sleeping pods. Then came the first ship. Inside were 2 gray-skinned aliens with wide eyes and 3 fingers. They had been cast out from their home because they could not bond the traditional way. They had no children, and so no place in their society. Vetra greeted them at the airlock. You are safe here, she said with a gentle smile. You belong. Then came more. A young reptilian artist who was shunned for painting instead of fighting. A 4-armed mechanic from a mining world who had no voice but made music with his tools. A fragile, feathered scholar who was born too weak to carry on her planet's tasks. Each one was welcomed. Each one was given a bed, a nameplate, and a small patch of garden to grow something of their own. The colony changed. No longer just Earth's far-off station, it became something more a haven, a place of second chances. And at the heart of it stood Vetra, no longer hidden in the shadows. She walked proudly now, her robes flowing behind her, her eyes bright. She was no longer the void, the unworthy, the rejected. To those who arrived, she was queen of the forgotten, but not because she ruled them, because she understood them, because she listened. Elias worked by her side every day, fixing machines, building new domes, helping newcomers settle in. One evening, under the soft lights of the garden, Elias stood beside her. The greenhouse glowed gold. The stars above the dome twinkled. He reached into his pocket. I wanted to ask you something. Vetra tilted her head, curious. He pulled out a small ring, simple, silver, smooth. It wasn't fancy, but it had been made with care. On the inside, 2 letters were carved. E+V, I know your people don't marry like humans do, he said. And maybe this doesn't mean much where you're from? But on Earth, it means something. It means I choose you. Not for your title, not for your body, but for your heart. Vetra's eyes widened. You want me to be your mate? He smiled. If you want to be... She looked down at the ring, then up at him. I never thought I would be chosen, she whispered. But with you, I feel like a queen, he laughed softly. That's because you are... And there, under the glowing leaves, she took the ring and placed it on her finger. Later, the news reached even the Thauron capital. The once useless daughter of a noble family had now created something powerful, not through weapons, but through kindness, not through bloodlines, but through choice. A new message came. Vetralin, you are formally invited back to Thaurex Prime. You are offered full restoration of your title and rank. She read the message in silence, then smiled gently. She sent one line back, Thank you, but I already have my crown. The garden dome stood tall, filled with beings of every shape and color. Laughter filled the halls. Music from many worlds mixed in the air. Children ran between the planting rows. Adults shared stories under starlight. And at the center of it all, Vetra and Elias sat side by side, hands joined, watching the future they had built. Not a kingdom of rules, but a family of the heart. And she, once cast out, now wore no golden crown, just a simple ring and a proud smile. But in the eyes of many across the stars, she would forever be known as the Queen who was loved. End of Part 5. Final chapter word count. Approximately 1,200 words. Let me know if you'd like another story or a different title idea. You said Part 2, 1,200 words Kaliko or interesting Hinachea or third-person style. Malekni ha or simple basic English ka. Don't use any violated word. So please avoid any violated content. ChatGPT said, here is Part 2, 1,200 words of your HFY Sci-Fi story. Her body was rejected for breeding, but a human loved her like a queen. Simple basic English. Third-person style. Clean and interesting. Part 2. The human who did not look away. The colony lights were dim that night. Thin clouds of space dust floated over the dome, giving the stars a soft glow. The moon was quiet, but inside the small med bay Elias worked. Quietly, with tools in his hands and questions in his mind. He had seen the strange alien woman 3 times now. She always walked alone, never spoke, and never looked anyone in the eyes. But tonight was different. She sat on a bench near the greenhouse, her head low, her shoulders shaking just slightly. Elias placed his tools down. His work could wait. He stepped outside the med bay, walking slowly toward her. She didn't move. He sat down on the edge of the bench, not too close. You okay? He asked softly. The alien woman didn't answer. I've seen you around. You always keep to yourself, he continued. Still, no reply. He looked at her hands. They were wrapped in thin gloves, but he could see the faint blue glow through them. Thauron, no doubt. I'm Elias, he said. Mechanic, sort of a doctor too, you? A pause. Then she finally spoke in a quiet voice. Vetra, he smiled. Nice to meet you, Vetra. She turned her face away. You don't have to be kind. I know what I am. What are you? She looked at him now. Her golden eyes were filled with sadness. Varan. Elias blinked. He remembered that term from some report. It was a Thauron word. It meant unfit or worse, rejected. I see, he said carefully. And who decided that? My people. Well, Elias said, leaning back, I'm not your people. I decide for myself. She looked confused. You are not afraid? Disgusted? He laughed. No, why would I be? She touched her chest lightly. My body was tested. They said it cannot carry life, so I was sent away. No family would take me. I am nothing. Elias shook his head. That's not nothing. That's just science. People are more than just what their body can or can't do. She stared at him for a long moment. Why do you speak like that? Why do you not look away? He met her eyes. Because you're still here. You're still alive. And that means you matter. From that night, things began to change. Vetra still kept to herself, but now she allowed Elias to sit beside her sometimes. They would talk about small things. The weather inside the dome, the sound of the wind machines, the taste of earth-grown tomatoes. She was slow to trust, but Elias was patient. He never rushed her. One day, as they walked near the outer tunnels, Elias asked, You ever miss your home? Vetra paused. Sometimes, but mostly I miss what I thought it was. He nodded. Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. I wanted to be useful. I studied. I trained. I passed all tests. Except one. He looked at her gently. You were made to feel like a failure for something that's not your fault? That's cruel. She didn't reply, but her silence was softer now, not as heavy. Elias invited her to help in the greenhouse. At first, Vetra hesitated. She had never worked with earth plants before, but she learned quickly. Her hands were gentle, and she moved.